So for those of us that might have certain goals in life and might feel stuck based on our situation, our circumstances, on not being able to fulfill this goal, in this video I'll talk to you about a simple, effective 3-step formula and how anyone, based on your circumstances, where you're at in life, how anyone can just follow the simple formula and get immediate results. Okay, and this 3-step formula is basically broken into assess, plan, and execute. And I'll explain all 3 sections. So the first step in designing the life you want is you have to know what you're going for, right? What is your goal? Where do you want to be? How do you want to look like? What do you see yourself doing? Right? So these are the most important questions because you need to have the end goal in mind. Because if you don't have the end goal in mind, what I find with a lot of people is that basically you'll make decisions, you'll make actions thinking that where you're at right now is what you want, and based on the state of maturity, consciousness, development, where you're at right now, you think that you can just piece it together along the way. Versus doing it coming from the end in mind, right? Having the end goal in mind and working backwards in creating your life from that perspective. Because when you don't have that perspective, you will go down a path that you might not enjoy. So very commonly, we grow up, go to school, we're told to get a good paying job, work 9 to 5 for 40 years, retire, and call it a life, right? So, and a lot of us, of course, we have to follow that path in order to realize we don't want that path. Okay, and whether you're in a 9 to 5 right now, whether you're just a kid in school, whether you're in between jobs, this formula will apply. Because not only do you have to know the end goal in mind, assess what's your goal, you have to also assess where you are at right now. And that's just as important as having your end goal in mind. Because this is the foundation to it all. If you don't know where you stand today and you're making goals far into the future and you're basing it not realistically on where you're at, you're gonna find yourself having more difficulties accomplishing that goal because you yourself are not in a realistic place of assessing yourself. You don't know exactly where you're at. And if you don't know exactly where you stand today, where you stand on the map, where you are on the map, how are you possibly going to find out how you're going to get to your final destination anyways, right? So assess where you want to go, your end point, and assess your starting point. How are my finances? How are my resources? How are my relationships? How are my connections? Do I have the ability to make this choice to actually make my end goal realistic? Because if it's not, if your starting point is not ideal, which again, no one's starting point really is, you have to be realistic about it. And you have to make adjustments along the way, knowing where you stand, okay? It's kind of like driving from New York to California, right? If you don't know exactly where in New York you're at, how are you gonna pick what highway to go down, to travel through to get to California, right? So having a good inventory, a clear inventory of where you stand today is very important for that reason. Okay, so that was assess. That was the first step. Where you start, where you end. The second step is to plan, okay? And this is called the how. How are you going to get there, right? How are you going to get from New York to California? How are you going to get from your current 9 to 5, your current school situation, your current, relationship situation, financial situation? How are you going to get from point A to point B? And this involves planning. You basically make the steps. You chart it out, like plotting points on a map. Different stages of getting there, okay? And I find a common misstep that a lot of people make during this process is that they don't accurately plan out the different stages of their plan. Sometimes people make too big stages, meaning the goals are too lofty. It's too high to reach. And it's gonna take them a long, long time to eventually get to that stage. Or, on the other side, too many people make too many steps, right? They overcomplicate it. And when you make too many steps, you yourself get lost in the process. So, simple is always better. And that's why step 1 is so important, because you need to assess, again, where you stand today, where you're starting from, and your end goal. And once you have that, you can plan accordingly. You can take this highway to California, or you can take this highway. Or if this doesn't work out, you take another road, okay? But planning is so important because this is the foundation to it all, okay? You need to follow your plan. Okay, I repeat, you need to follow your plan. Even if it doesn't work out, which will happen most of the time, you need to follow through. Because a lot of people also will make the plan, realize it doesn't work initially, and they just give up. You have to follow the plan. You have to go through the full thing to make sure it is actually the plan or not. That it'll actually help you get to the place where you want or not. And this is very important because I tell people all the time, your plan A will not look like plan A, okay? Your plan A might get you to plan B, which will get you to plan C, and eventually get to your goal, okay? These plans eventually change over time, but you won't realize how it changes until you go through the full process of your original plan, right? Every step is a stepping stone, right? Every step along the way, you want to make sure and you want to realize and experience if this stage was actually useful to you or not, right? If you took the wrong highway, that's totally fine in the beginning, right? But eventually you'll find your way back to another road that gets you on the path to going to where you want to be. Okay, so that's the how. How are you going to get from where you're at now to your goal? Okay, so that's part 2. And finally, the last part, and it's the easiest and the hardest part. And I say that because the last part is about execution. It's about taking action. And I know a lot of people talk about this, but here's a simple way to look at it. When are you going to do it? When are you going to take that next step of your plan? When are you going to adjust and take that other step and move forward? Because a lot of people talk about taking massive action, right? Tony Robbins, a lot of these self-help, coaching gurus, they all talk about action, which again is the most important because action is what creates outcomes. And many people, especially if you're anxious or you're a perfectionist, right, you'll get stuck in the first and second stages because you keep on thinking, planning, replanning, going back to the drawing board because you feel like it might not work. But again, like in my other video, all of the answers to your questions lies on the other side of fear. And how you get to the other side of fear is you have to take action. You have to find out for yourself if this plan is going to work out or not. So you have to execute. You have to take that action. And in order to do it, you have to be accountable. And this means when. When are you going to do it? Put it on your calendar. Put it on your phone. Put it on as a reminder. When are you going to do the thing that you said you were going to do? Okay? And trust me, this is the metric to success. Consistently addressing, checking off, completing that part. Doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it when you originally planned it. Okay? Success is not about getting to the finish line and having everything that you need and being comfortable. That is not success. That doesn't allow for any growth at all. Success is your ability to learn from your challenges and overcome them the next time the same challenge comes up. That is the true metric of success, right? So in order to do that, you have to know. You have to know what it's like to be on the other side of taking action, of learning whether that plan of yours worked or not. So again, taking action, execution, when are you going to do it? That is the last and third final stage. So in summary, in this video, we talked about the 3 simple steps to designing the life of your dreams. Number 1, you have to assess. Assess what your end goal is. Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? How do you want to feel? And assess your starting point. Where exactly are you right now in terms of those goals? And number 2 is planning. Plan out each step, each stage. Make it simple, make it easy to accomplish, right? And trial by error. You will have contingency plans. Plan A doesn't work, plan B. Plan B doesn't work, plan C. But how you find out about that is the last step. Execution. When are you going to do what you said you're going to do? When are you going to follow through with plan A? Plan A doesn't work, when are you going to follow through with plan B? It's that simple. And through all this, it's all about putting the effort every day. No matter how big, how small, as long as you're moving forward and following through with all of these 3 steps, these 3 stages, I will guarantee you, you will be a different person on the other side. And you will get to a place, perhaps not what you imagined, and even perhaps something even crazier, better than what you initially. So that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. I would love to know about your plans, right? Starting off with the 3 stages, okay? Assessing where you are, what's your plan, and how you're going to execute it. And if you enjoyed this content, feel free to like and subscribe. I make a lot of videos about self-help in a grounded, practical, spiritual way. That's all. See you in the next video.